Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. In this Sunday episode, we have a clip here from Tim Pool's podcast where self-proclaimed leftist Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report defends having explicit content in children's books in the school system. This one is wild, folks. Before we jump into any of it, support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. The question for all of you is, do you support having explicit content like pornographic images showing people how to masturbate and get blowjobs in children's books in the school system? Let us know in the comment section below. And also, go to any of the links in the description below and get yourself a copy of Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. It's a great book written by yours truly. Pick it up for yourself or a friend or family member. And become a member today. Become a true American patriot yourself by joining our community here. The Join tab is down below. We got a lot of frequent members here that join the live chat or just the channel in general. We would love to have you. They would love to have you. So consider becoming American patriot today. With that being said, there's going to be a lot of commentary here on this episode, folks. A lot of pausing the video. I am a teacher myself, so I got a lot to say about this whole thing. I do want to set it up for you. At this point in the podcast, Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report, again, a self-proclaimed leftist, it's not just me calling her that, she is self-proclaimed leftist, says that, hey, what is it about Ron DeSantis' policies that you like? And he brings up a policy in which he likes, and that's where we take off here.
Okay, so you're...
I've not been on board with him. So we can look at what happened.
And you said parental rights. I'm curious what you mean by that.
Yeah,
Because
like...
I'm in favor of parental rights, right? Like, I want parents to be able to, if their child is transitioning, to be able to work with their doctor with a plan and make sure that children are not being driven to suicidal ideation and that parents aren't restricted by the state from...
Let's talk about one of his policies.
Okay, go ahead. I don't want parents to be restricted from the state from giving healthcare to their children.
If I open this book...
I want to pause it there because that's what you hear a lot from the leftist, is that they will say something that a lot of people can get behind. Black lives matter. Yes, everybody agrees. Black lives do matter, but it's what's behind that saying that people have problems with. Here, yes, people don't want the state to tell a parent what they can and can't do with their child in terms of medical care. But what's behind that statement that I'm curious on is does she support mutilating children, castrating children? Parents approve of it. So what's the problem? That's my question. That's what I think she really means here in terms of parental rights, parental care of children, in terms of helping them transition. If you heard that key phrase there, transition, I think she probably is. If she's a self-proclaimed leftist, leftists tend to agree with mutilating children. But let's continue.
Book on YouTube, the stream will get taken down.
Okay.
Did you ever read this book?
No.
This book is in middle schools in Florida. Ron DeSantis had it removed. That's one simple policy he did. That's very good. You've never seen this book?
I've heard about it.
Have you ever looked inside of it?
No, but I mean, I don't believe in censorship.
If I show you a picture of a blowjob, would you be offended?
I mean...
Can I show you a picture of a blowjob?
I wouldn't be offended. I mean, I think
Disavow.
that, honestly, do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what is bad.
I can't show this image on YouTube.
Do you hear me, though, about that?
So I think
the more children
the issue
learn
is,
about sexual education, the less likely they are to be victims of pedophilia and rape.
I think the issue is you're confusing sexual education with kink.
Correct.
Right. So I'm looking at this right now. I can't even hold it up because I can't point it at the camera. And I don't understand why school children should be taught how to perform blowjobs for an autoandrophile.
I don't believe they're being taught that.
Why was this book
banned?
Why was this book in
I
grade
don't
school?
really know. Again,
Amazon
because this is another
so,
case-by-case example.
No. You asked me about what Ron DeSantis did.
Censorship.
You asked me what Ron DeSantis did that I liked.
That he banned genderqueer?
That he's removing pornographic and kink books from middle schools is a very, very good one. And I would.
Well, for me, my politics are a little broader than that, Tim. I got to say.
So, listen. If your argument to me is that I or anyone else should support your politics because you want to show blowjobs to children, you're going to lose.
Well, I don't think that is a policy done by teachers in this country. I think that this
book was in schools in Florida, which is why
there are a ton of books that are in a ton of schools. I don't believe in censorship. That's not my bag, buddy.
So you think children should have Playboy?
I don't really think so. No, because that's pornography.
So you think a blowjob?
Tim, you're in favor of censorship.
Yes,
You are.
absolutely.
Oh, that's good to know.
If you watched the show, you'd know this.
Oh, you're okay. You're
We
pro
talk
censorship.
about
I
how
am.
we're
I
for-
am not. I want children to be able to have all the information that they need in order to
including pornography.
No, that's not pornography.
We back up.
Can we just where are the adults other than Tim Pool in the room? I mean, there's the other gentleman, but she is clearly off her rocker, you guys. I don't think that just any book or any material should be in the school system. That's why teachers strictly teach from state standards. That's our tool. That's our go-to. That's the first thing you look at when you're going to start a lesson is what's the standard? What do I need to cover to make sure I meet that? This stuff is in the school system. And I think one thing that not a lot of people talk about is a Supreme Court case from 1982. There actually is a difference between what's in the curriculum in the classroom and what's in the school library. Technically, the school library is First Amendment. The thing is that you're talking about elementary school kids and middle school kids seeing explicit content, which showing people how to masturbate properly with cartoons that we saw in New Jersey, how to use butt plugs, how to lubricate things appropriately, how to find a certain dating apps on your phone. It is so wild, and she's for all this. I'm not for any censorship. Like, what? I'm a huge Constitution advocate. I want you to have your free speech. I want her to say whatever she wants. That's fine, but we're talking about the school system protecting children from explicit content. And when you say, well, I'm not for any censorship, like, where do you draw that line? Even for those that are free speech advocates, there is a line to be drawn when it comes to our children, not as an adult. Have as whatever you want in libraries. I read all the time. I love libraries. I love libraries so much. I just walk around libraries to see what they look like. I walk in Barnes and Nobles once a week with a cup of coffee. I don't even buy anything. I just love being around that idea of books. Some people might find that weird. But when it comes to children, we have to protect them as the adults. In the same way, a lot of progressive leftists, a lot of Democrats right now, are going with this idea that children just know everything. They can comprehend everything. It is so wild to me that they're like, oh yeah, children can make the decision of what they can and can't read, what they can and can't do. When did that start happening? It's so wild. A lot of people can't even cross a street at the age of which these books are being shown to them. They can't take out a loan. They can't drive a car. They can't drink. They can't buy cigarettes. They can't do a lot of things. Why? Because this up here is not working. It's not fully developed yet. But therefore, this stuff, I mean, it continues, folks. I believe the power goes out here, but they will pick up the conversation when the power's back on.
Record everything. And it's
Also,
stormy
too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a little rain.
So the power just
went
fluctuated.
out. Yeah, that was God striking censorship.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really mind that stuff. I mean, are you in favor of children seeing violence on television?
No.
That scares me a little bit more.
It depends. It's not so simple to say violence, right? But yes.
Television is different than what's brought in the school system. Again, these are these similar tactics where they will throw something out there that, yes, has something to do with the conversation, but it's to lean them towards a whole different part of the conversation that they're going to take advantage of. What is done in the home is different than what is done in the classroom as well as the school. One is public, one is private. Even private schools have a kind of a different way to run things than even public schools are. They still run by the state standards, but not just anything and everything goes in private schools. And there's probably more censorship within private schools than there even is in public schools. Let that one sink in. Because a lot of private schools tend to be more conservative than they do being left-leaning. But here, it's just mind-blowing that she is for this stuff. I guess we shouldn't be blown because it's a similar thing from the left that we've been seeing for years and years now.
Censorship is a good thing, but when done bad is a bad thing.
Yeah.
For instance, Ian Crossland, who is a co-host on TimcastIRL, used to be a moderator for Minds.com, and he had to filter out graphic depictions of murder and rape and child abuse. Censorship is absolutely vital in that regard. So if we're talking about a book like, in particular, there was one called, there's a teacher who provided a book to her middle schoolers called This Book is Gay. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have heard. That's actually a very good book.
And it provides instruction on she provided instruction to children on how to use adult gay anonymous sex apps. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. Now, look, by all means, you can be in favor of them.
Maybe she had a child. Maybe she had a child in her classroom
who wanted to go on Grindr and have sex with adults. Is that your argument?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that. First of all, I don't know. Again, this is
why would
another,
a 10-year-old need Grindr?
This is the thing that you do, though, Tim.
Oh, that I do.
Again, teacher here. No. What she's saying is completely wrong. It amazes me. Folks, if a child asks you a question that's inappropriate for you as an adult to answer, you as the adult don't answer it. You don't indulge in that conversation. What do you say? Hey, I think this is a conversation you should have with your parents. End of story. That is it. It's not hard. And I don't understand. Again, there's a separation between teachers and activist teachers. There's even LGBTQ teachers, folks, that agree with all of us that they don't want to have this conversation with students. They might be gay or lesbian themselves, meaning the teachers. They don't want to have this conversation because it's inappropriate to have with a child or even a high schooler. Have this conversation with your parents. I'm not on board with this whole conversation. I don't feel comfortable having this conversation. I don't know you. I know you slightly because you're my student, but I don't want to have this conversation with you. But for some reason, she's going to go with the whole thing of like, well, maybe there was a student in the classroom that had a question, and so you must answer it because you're the teacher. False. False. Especially when it goes into this type of dicey territory. I don't think so. But again, they're going to try to maneuver this in any way possible to have these activist leftist teachers indoctrinate your children, because once you indoctrinate one, everybody else is going to listen in on the conversation and hear that information, and they're going to absorb it.
Picking specific examples that
You
are
asked me for
inflammatory.
one.
asked for a specific
You asked
example.
me for one.
Okay, then go ahead. I
did.
don't
We
know
have the book.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
said,
in
don't
fa-
show children blowjobs. You
Look,
said you appreciate
I'm
it.
not in favor of censorship. I'm not in
As
favor
an
of
objective
censorship.
observer that's sitting here, you asked for a specific example, he gave it to you, and then you try to say he's broadly in favor of censorship.
Yeah.
It's possibly to make a hypocrisy point later on when he complains about social media censorship or something like that.
No,
But
I
it's
just
like he's talking about this
There you
specific
go.
issue. And I remember I was working on an education series about this kind of thing years before it was popular. Yes, I was ahead of my time. And yeah, these kind of things were popping up all over schools. And I am happy that DeSantis is like doing something.
We
about
had
it.
Asra Nomani on the show. She brought in, I think, like 70 books of all of the weird racist indoctrination and sex stuff that they're bringing in schools.
Yeah.
And I said, look, man, it's really simple for me. If someone comes to me and says that they think this book, which Amazon says is 18 up only, should be given to children, I'll say, I will vote against you.
So
If-
should the Bible be banned from schools because it depicts
It is
sexual
banned
acts?
from schools, public schools.
The Bible probably is not appropriate for children for a lot of reasons. And I am not a Christian, so I don't particularly care about whether or not they're going to give a book to children that has something like Deuteronomy 23:20 in it. I don't think kids should be reading that kind of stuff.
Okay.
However, I'm in favor of the parents deciding when it is appropriate for their kids, which comes with very difficult moral questions in that my morality is different from the morality of each individual parent. So that's why I'm kind of like, the government probably shouldn't be the one doing it.
Have you had an expert on sexual education on your program to talk about this kind of stuff?
Yes.
What did they say?
You get into a point of a conversation where get the idea of authority. Because somebody is an expert on something, they must know a lot about it, and thus their opinions must be correct on it. Folks, there's a lot of professors out there that push crazy things. There's a lot of doctors out there that will sit there and mutilate your children. There's a lot of people that are experts in fields that do insane things. You can point to a lot of terrible things in history where people were experts on something and they did atrocities to human beings. So that's why I don't like always going, oh, did you have an expert on your show? And thus, because you had an expert on your show, what did they say? Oh, well, because they said this, then they must be right. You don't have to be an expert on something to be able to sense out the BS. There's a saying we'd always use in auditing or in accounting. If it smells like, shit, it is shit. So they're just kind of saying, because they do the same thing in politics. If there's, smoke and fire, they must correlate with one another, but we'll continue here.
And are
it's
you in
been a
favor
very,
of
very long
abstinence
time.
only?
No. It's been a very, very long time.
You're not in favor of abstinence only
I
education.
think abstinence only is
So
silly.
you're kind of hinging on this book that has pornographic material in it that okay.
There's a difference between sex and kink.
Correct.
Okay, sure.
So the many individuals on the left have made arguments in favor of kink for kids, which is weird to me, and I think is inappropriate. I think kids should learn about sex. I think the parents should decide when it's appropriate. This is why typically at schools they would give out notice to the parents like, we're intending on doing sex ed. Here's the subjects we're going to cover.
Nothing's changed.
The
in
issue
that way.
with Florida was that they had a policy where they would not instruct parents and actually were told not to talk to the parents if the kids were suffering identity issues. Now,
Correct.
the state should not intervene and take away the rights of the parents in that in that way.
Wait, can
I think
you
that's
can you
wrong.
say that again? The state. What about gender identity issues?
So in Florida, what prompts a bill like this, and it also happened with stuff in like Nashville, was that the schools, and I think they do this in like Washington and Colorado, the schools were actually telling teachers not to talk to the parents if the children were having some kind of identity issue. And so this led to suicides.
No. What leads to
Well, it
suicides
did.
is that children are being told that they cannot operate and be who they are as the gender that is who they are in their heart. That's what's leading to
But
suicides.
I'm talking about one specific. Well, I think it's like
Again,
two
you're talking about
examples.
one specific example. I'm talking
You-
about
you can't-
broader.
Again, she asked him to give a specific example, and so he does, and then she, this is her tactic here, and she's getting completely destroyed here. And the conversation kind of spirals into something else, but she affirms the whole idea that she loves these books in schools. For some reason, the left is grabbing hold of this crazy idea where they love going after your children about sex, gender, identity, indoctrination with critical race theory coming from critical law studies. Again, we write about all this. There's a whole section of this book about the education system and the indoctrination that's going on. So check it out. Links to this in the description below. I think you would love the book. Coming from even a teacher's perspective, we completely shellac the leftists. For those that have read it, let us know in the comment section below how much you love the books. I know some of you bought it. But it's so wild to me that for some reason we're treating children as adults. And by we, I mean the left here, in pockets of the Democrat Party. Not all Democrats are for this stuff. But it's wild to me that all of a sudden it's like, oh, children can just understand everything and they can dictate and know everything. It is wild to me. We bring the adults and the parents in the room where it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to dictate what's best for the child. And even sometimes the parents are wrong, by the way. That's why we don't allow child abuse to happen in this country. But the left just want to show children explicit sexual content and groom children. It is so wild to me. It's disgusting. Again, there's pockets of the LGBTQ community that are teachers themselves, and they don't want any part of this either. So we got to be understanding of that, because this is very nuanced. Right now, a lot of us, and maybe I've even been a contributor to that, which is why I'm trying to correct this, is we're treating all teachers as if this is what's an epidemic in the school system. A lot of these books are in school districts, which is true, but we have to get out of the realm of, well, the teachers are bad, let's go after the teachers, we need to target teachers. You should support teachers, and we should figure out who are the bad teachers that are these activist teachers, and then have a conversation with them of like, hey, you're a great teacher, but you got to stop doing this in the classroom. Because we get in the realm of like, well, if somebody's part of the Black Lives Matter outside the school system, then inside for their career, we must get rid of them because of their viewpoint outside the school system. I don't agree with that. I'm a conservative Republican. I don't teach this stuff in the classroom. I just do it as a hobby on the outside because I enjoy it. But this is separated from my profession and my career, and we have to be understanding of that. The thing is that there's activist teachers that bring what's outside, what to do outside, into the classroom, which I think is inappropriate. I don't think that should be allowed. I want to be clear on this, because at some point here, I have a feeling this channel is going to blow back on me, or be like, oh, well, he's bringing that into the classroom because of his conservative views. No. I can't be any more clear than I am. LGBTQ, if you're a trans, whatever you are, black, white, Asian, trans, LGBTQ, gender identity issues, whatever, I don't care. I just want you to do well in my room. I will treat you equally. I want you to do well in my classroom. I want you to succeed. Can't be any more clear than that. I don't want to push my ideas on you. I don't want to push Republican conservative ideas on you. I want your parents to support you. I want your parents to dictate what you should and shouldn't learn. I'm just going to teach you mathematics according to the state standards. I don't want to have conversations about sex with you. I don't want to have conversations about your relationships with you. I don't want to have any of that. I can't be any clearer than where I'm at right now. And hopefully let me know in the chat. Am I being clear on this? That I don't want to have any of this involvement? I just want to teach math. I just want to teach algebra. I just want to teach statistics. That's all I want. Finance. I don't want to have any of this. So if this ever blows back, somebody clip this bad boy, because it's going to be used as ammo going, I don't teach any politics in the classroom, unless it was finance or some political stuff in there, to be honest. But it's goes back and forth. If something that hurts your pocketbook, then you got to talk about the government implications and the policy of how it hurts you and all those other things. But other than that, math is like, it's very easy to stay away from the politics. So a little bit of a tangent there. Let me know what you think, you guys. Some people are for this. I would imagine there's maybe some conservative Republicans that are for showing pornographic imagery. I do think there should be sex education in the school system upon a parent approval, which is what Tim Pool said. A lot of health classes will push this. I know in my health class, they did a sex education that the parents had to sign. I think there should be an agreement to that. If you're going to show a book in the classroom, parents should know about the books. A lot of times you could throw that in the syllabus. Hey, here's a list of books that we're going to show. If you have a problem with your son or daughter seeing one of these books, they could step out of the classroom as we're viewing it. But here's the thing, is that they're being forced to learn these things. In the state of California, heck, I've been a teacher for a while. I just learned the state of California has an act where it's mandated that you learn about gender identity and stuff like that. It's like mandated. You have to teach it. So you can potentially have a conservative Republican teacher, or just a teacher in general, it doesn't have to be conservative Republican, that doesn't agree with that whole idea, but still has to teach it. So that's why I mean of like, we're going after, I think, teachers maybe in the wrong light, whereas we need to be kind of a nuanced about it, going like, hey, we can't just target all teachers. We can't just target the entire education system. There's a lot of teachers that don't agree with this stuff, but they're being forced to teach it because it's part of an act. It's part of the standards in which they have to teach. So now you're getting some weird territory where the state is mandating certain things, and I don't think the state should mandate certain things. But we can go on a whole hour-long here podcast. I know some of you are for that, of just listening to me ramble maybe. But I really am curious on what you think about all this. Maybe I'm wrong, and that's one of the main reasons why we do this podcast is, hey, see what's going on. Is the public right? Am I right? Do I need to change my viewpoint? Do I need to buy more books on this and kind of read up and figure out, okay, what the hell's going on with my own thinking? I think it's wild personally. I don't think adults, especially somebody that's a complete stranger, teachers are still strangers to their children, students, no matter how much they know them. You shouldn't be having conversations like this with your kids. Your kids shouldn't see this. And, we're going to continue just for one moment because I want to bring something else up here. She talked about, violence. I mean, violence can be a broad spectrum of things, kind of like the idea of hate speech. Oh, hate speech. There are things I think we can come around of violence that shouldn't be shown to children. I'll just bring one up. Do we want to show children the beheading of American soldiers from terrorists back in like 2001? Do we want to show children that, show the atrocities that comes from extreme Islam? Anybody? Because that footage is out there. We could show them that. Should we? No, of course not. Of course not. There's a lot of things you shouldn't show children. In the same way, she was like, all of a sudden, I don't think we should have pornography, the porn books, in the school system. She goes, well, that's porn. So is showing cartoons and showing people masturbating to elementary school kids and showing them how to lube up butt plugs and stuff like that and anal beads and all these things. It's not a good thing. It's not something you should be showing children. Well, I'm not for censorship. So if a guy's run around naked on the streets of LA, which I've seen before, and showing his private parts to little kids, and by the way, doesn't get arrested for it at all because we're protecting the homeless for some reason, should that be okay? Is that a form of censorship if we tell the guy to put his pants on? Or guys masturbating in the streets, public area? Should that be censored? Should we show kids that? Should we show kids just of a grown men masturbating, or women? Is that appropriate? Should we show that? See, like the whole realm. It's wild to me that they're on board for this stuff. But again, the arguments of, the right are pro free speech, so because we're pro free speech and we don't think people should be censored, all of a sudden, now you're for censorship, which you saw in the episode. So again, folks, enough of me rambling. Let me know what you think about it. Become a member, become a true American patriot. We got an awesome community here, folks. It's more than the show. The community itself is worth it. We got an awesome community. We got regulars every single day that join the show in the live chat that would love to engage with you as well as myself. Think about becoming a member today. Your money's going clearly in the right place rather than these leftist organizations like Disney, Netflix, and others that are promoting these ideas and showing your children these things which shouldn't be approved, folks. We'd love your support nonetheless. That being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on the Paul Brad Show.